Yes, I'm going to kickstart that. Thank you very much, team. Thank you, Wendy Ann. And we have a panel here on coaching ethics in the Latin American context. Keyword there, context. And we had this morning Eva talking about Latin America being in the West. So I'd like to hear more of that when you get to talk to us. So quickly, I'm going to start introducing our panel, and welcome everyone again. I'm going to start introducing Eva Hirsch-Pontes. You'll excuse my pronunciation, please. And she's an executive coach, trainer, and facilitator, and coach, mentor, and supervisor, and conflict mediator. Maybe you need to line up a trip to Russia and Ukraine, Eva. Eva currently alternates her residence between Berlin and her hometown in Rio de Janeiro. Eva holds a master's certified coach MCC credential with ICF. And she's also accredited with the EMCC, which is the European Mentoring and Coaching Council. And she has been actively involved in volunteer activities for ICF for quite a while. And she integrated the first board ICF chapter in Brazil, and currently holds a seat in the advisory board of that chapter. So she has served as a member of the ethics committee of ICF chapter Brazil. So she comes in loaded with a lot of very valuable experience for this. Thank you, Eva, and welcome. And Joao Luis Pascal has been an executive coach since 2006. Again, excuse my pronunciation. You just take it. I'm pronouncing it in Zulu. It should be okay. Member of ICF, and holds a certificate at MCC level, Master Certified Coach, and is also a Certified Administration Counselor, affiliated to the Brazilian Corporate Governance Institute, IBGC. And she was elected in 2015 as ICF President of Brazil for 3 years, and currently presides over the advisory board, ICF Brazil chapter. It's quite experienced again at leadership level. So he also serves as the independent review board and as vice chair of development at ICF Global, and is one of the co-leaders for the coaching education community. And Joao is a mentor certified, coach certified by Invite Change in the USA, and accredited coach supervisor at CSA in London, and holds a diploma in organizational psychology from INSEAD, which is in France. And he also holds a master's degree in consulting and coaching for change from INSEAD. And he has an MBA from the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil. Welcome, Joao. And finally, Silvina. Thank you, Silvina. It's a Spiegel, yeah? Okay. She's a multicultural executive coach, supervisor, mentor coach, and coach trainer. She has coaching experience in Spanish, Portuguese, Hebrew, and English. Current representative from Latin America for the regional coordination team, NALAC ICF professional coaches, and working towards the DAGE and B of the region. I'm not sure what that acronym means there, Silvina, you can explain that. And she's a Brazilian representative from 2020 for the Latin American Forum, responsible for the inclusion of Portuguese translation in every event. We need that inclusion, not to be too exclusivist and elitist. Nice one. She's a former ICF Brazil chapter vice president and founder, director, and former VP of the Rio de Janeiro subunit. And Silvina is professional certified coach by International Coaching Federation since 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our panel. I'm going to step back and I'm going to hand over now to Joao to lead this panel. I'm going to come in right at the end. So the panel will drive itself through the rest of the time. So Joao, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dumi. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever you are connected with us today. It's a pleasure to be here and talk about ethics context in Latin America. Before we start, I want to thank Wendy Ann for the invitation. Appreciate your presence here, Dumi, and say that this panel was planned previously to include two other representatives, panelists in Latin America. One representing Chile and the other from Mexico, that unfortunately they have personal problems and that prevent them to be with us today. One more point that I like to add before I start is to say that Silvina, in addition to what Dumi was mentioning, she represents not only the Argentinian way and culture, but very much involved in the Brazilian coaching atmosphere and environment. And as Dumi said already, she is making a tremendous job by including the Portuguese language in our region. The region that is comprised by 33 countries and 4 different languages. Not to say that we have a variety of indigenous dialects in the region as well. I'm not counting on those 4 languages I mentioned to you. So for you to start traveling with us in this panel, I invite you to just think about how ethics can gain a certain complexity in a region with so many cultural differences. And as Maria B.K. was referring to us yesterday morning, was a variety of value systems, therefore bringing a myriad of interpretations and time to time, to say the least, misinterpretations of the various codes of ethics we know. Just to illustrate a bit better what I'm talking about, in Brazil, where I live and where I was born, we were colonized by Portuguese. Once invaded by Dutch, have the first largest Japanese community outside Japan. And I open a parenthesis here, the second largest community, Japanese community in the region is in Peru. All along the years, many Italians coming to work and develop some industries in Brazil. Germans too, not to mention what we call intra-regional immigration, when we see our fellows Venezuelans and Bolivians coming to Brazil or going to Argentina, for instance. More recently, we experimented a wave of immigration from refugees to Brazil from Syria, Haiti, and Afghanistan. To give you a concrete example of what ethical issues we have in our region, in this very moment, in one of the countries, we facing a situation of possible what we call regulation of the coaching activity. And therefore, in our view, running the risk that the regulation will favor groups that do not have any preparation or robustness to represent coaching professionals who belong to the various coaching bodies in the world and who are dedicated to developing coaches and ensuring the quality standards of our practice. Moreover, getting the risks by having a coach activity regulated by governments that are not prepared for doing so. As we heard some colleagues of ours yesterday talking about the government's intervention on a very specific professional activity like ours. This is specific situation, the regulation or the risk of having our activity regulated, was triggered by a popular action taken by a person who felt wronged by a pseudo, as I call a pseudo coach, not really a coach. And the case gained prominence, incredibly, in the media, and found a kind of a sounding board in this country's Congress, just for you to see the consequences of such a situation. Just for you to have an idea how things can become bigger and bigger because of a very low public knowledge about coaching, and why not to mention lack of information. The question here, though, is what are we doing or not doing with it? How coaching bodies, schools, and other institutions should be acting to prevent this kind of situations. I get the opportunity to say in the name of our colleagues, my colleagues here, that we, Eva, Silvina, and I argued that ethics in Latin America, as you are probably aware of, is in its early days. And we do have problems of the so-called maluse of the coaching concept. That's very unfortunate, but it's the reality. During the years, to give you a broader picture, during the years, corruption and impunity came to be serious moral diseases in the region, probably because of a long period of dictatorship in most countries. Low ethical standards in the politics have had deep impact on individuals, organizations, and on economic systems. Probably we could also say that excessive consumption, materialism, and selfishness, in contrast with real poverty, have been responsible for a sloppiness in attitudes and principles in many Latin American countries. What we see as a hope, let's say, or light, is that several isolated efforts have been done to enhance business ethics through education, publications, and professional activities. And business, what I mean by business, should be understood in a wide sense to include all systems involved in the exchange of goods and services. While ethics in general, and we have to be careful when we generalize, is circumscribed as all human action aimed at securing a good life. The relationship, though, between business and academia has proved to be an excellent initiative to address ethical endemic problems in our region. And we do have some good, again, light is coming, some good results already being showed in Mexico, in Brazil, and also in Peru. It is important to say that we need to promote a structured dialogue between coaches, coaching supervisors, and coaching bodies to address the various issues around ethical dilemmas and what I call tricky decision-making in order to develop an alternative perspective on coaching confidentiality with greater consideration to the circumstances when confidentiality can be broken, greater use of contracting, and improved coach and coach supervisor training in ethics, ethical sensitivity, and ethical decision-making again. Before I pass the word to Silvina, I want to share with you a very fresh case that happened recently in the region again, and how the coaching practice is being attacked by the media, and sometimes how coaching is used, the expression coaching is used as a synonym of unethical and unprofessional behavior. Very recently, there was a case of a so-called motivational consultant, not a coach, and I repeat, not a coach, that took a group of 26 or so persons to a mountain, and when they reached the peak, they were caught by surprise in a strong storm. Very speedy winds, heavy rain. Some of them went into shock mode. They paralyzed, and they had to be rescued by a fireman brigade. The coach, or the consultant, better, was attacked and criticized strongly by the media again, by not being prepared or by not being supported by an expert, which I found fair enough, right? This criticism. But the point that took our attention in the region was that all the other press vehicles, when carrying the news, commented that a coach, not a consultant, a coach, had been responsible for this disastrous adventure. So these are some snacks to start our panel here today, with more questions than answers, but with our strong belief that the more we discuss about ethics in coaching, the more we challenge ourselves with the objective of creating an environment that can be more inviting, light, and why not to say fun, so that this discussion could gain substance and greater engagement of all of us. And thus, we can be the agents that will demystify ethics in practice. So now I pass the baton to Silvina. Thank you.
Thank you, João. I'm really honored to be here discussing a topic so important on behalf of our region. First of all, a disclaimer: many of the situations that I'm about to discuss here with you are not exclusive to Latin America, but nevertheless, those are the conditions in which Latin American professional coaches live and work. I seize the opportunity of this panel to ask my fellow colleagues who are volunteer leaders from 15 different countries in Latin America from ICF, and another one from another federation, FICOP, which is the Ontological Federation. What was for them the most challenging scenario regarding ethics in our profession? The response was overwhelmingly similar. The market doesn't know how to differentiate a professional coach from a non-professional pseudo coach, and I call him pseudo coach also, Joe. Yeah. The marketing strategies of the non-coaches pretending to be coaches have more money behind them, are more aggressive, and have more impact than the effort of the professional coaches. And in the end, the market gets polluted with criminal types that harm the professional field for all the coaches. In the public eye, a coach turns into a synonym of a charlatan or a dangerous pseudo-psychologist who rob his clients. Let me give you some examples that they gave me to illustrate this phenomenon. Pseudo coaches that act as psychologists without a license. And so the psychologists are seeking justice. In Dominican Republic, coaches presenting themselves as professional or master coaches without having any credential from an established association or federation. And this happens in Chile, Venezuela, Brazil, Argentina, Peru, Colombia, a little bit on all of us. Non-coaches presenting themselves as coaches for very creative things. A little too creative, if you ask me. Like a DNA richness coach in Brazil. This one has triggered all the scenario that John was talking about. A former ontological coach that's no longer in the federation or the association of ontological coaches prepared a Ponzi scheme, that one with a pyramid scheme, to earn money from people, giving motivational speaking. And he's right now searched at this very moment with an extradition mandate from Interpol. And the media in Argentina calls him the Generation Zoe coach. So it's all over the media right now. Other challenge is media pseudo coaches selling miracles that they of course cannot perform and leaving behind a trail of unsatisfied customers and clients that hate coaching. And we saw intellectual people in Brazil talking about that. I hate coaching. It's not I don't think they are professionals, it's I hate coaching. Students that didn't graduate from their coach training or they failed their coach training and they present themselves as professional coaches and charge their clients as such with no ethic commitment whatsoever. This is happening in Uruguay, for example. Other things that came out of my question were the discussion on what this distortion means, even to professional coaches bounded with an ethics code. Coaches ashamed of the situation decide to publicly abandon the profession and use their competence inside other activities. So they don't present themselves no longer as a coach. They say they are consultants with sophisticated techniques and they don't present themselves as coaches. Sponsors that ask the coach for information against confidentiality in order to get hired to work in a larger company. This happened, for example, in Mexico, in Brazil, and Chile. Clients that have a misconception on what a coach is and what it can offer or not offer, and expect from their coach to be a mentor, a trainer, a consultant, to give advice, to be a partner and business partner. And we were talking about this in the previous panel. Consulting companies that hire coaches from third world countries to avoid paying taxes, offering them an hourly rate that a first world coach would never accept. Coaching schools that train their students with little to no reference about ethics. Coaching schools misusing the terminology, leading to potential student thinking they are entering a recognized training organization when they are not. Coach training organizations that promise to make you reborn as a coach within 8 hours. And other challenging factors are the little number of established institutions backing up the coaching profession as a serious one. The lack of evidence-based studies specifically done about Latin America that can speak to the ROI in coaching and the elements that constitute a professional coach. We're going there, but we are still not there yet. All of this in an environment where the rule is that there is no such thing as a serious judicial system, and therefore every charlatan and thief from the government down usually gets their way with little to no consequences at all. We lived, as my Venezuelan colleague told me, in fractured countries. And we have to model the possibility of a respectful whole society. Okay, so now let's stop crying over the spilled milk. There's a silver lining to every cloud after all. Now that I've given you concrete examples of our day-to-day struggles, let's reflect together. First, to have ethical competency to speak, learn, and teach about ethics within a non-ethical context is revolutionary. And of course, needs a big commitment, courage, and resilience, and a little craziness too. And we in Latin America are crazy in this way. We dare to believe in the possibility of us building a serious and remarkable profession. And since we know what is missing, we have a clear path of what needs to be done. We need to educate our market. We need to clarify the standards and cling to the ethic values and principles so hard that we don't sync with our respective countries and realities. And hope that in doing so, we are turning a little bit of the reality upside down, one coaching conversation at a time. That's why I'm thankful that we're here discussing ethics together. Every region, every country has its specific challenges, but no one can be left out of the discussion. We live in this environment not because we have an intrinsic or genetic failure. We live in nations that are products of our history, as John was saying. Following that point of view, I asked my colleagues again in different countries of my region, what can we bring to the world discussion about ethics? They answered right away. First of all, we can provide lots and lots of cases and testimonials for analysis, definitely. And we can also bring our will and our thirst for knowledge, for reflection, for clear values and pillars to base our professional life on. We are not the only region facing these challenges, of course. That is why we think we need to maintain an ongoing conversation about ethical challenges and opportunities within challenging contexts. And being on the same table also brings its own challenges. Even within Latin America, we have different languages, and sometimes we don't understand what the other person is saying. But we learned to keep the conversation going if we want to change the game, and we do want to. We trust that we can serve the international community and that this inclusion will enrich and enlarge the cultural horizon of the discussion. On ethics and on the coaching profession, we cannot inhabit different worlds. There is no such thing as a third world coach. So that's why this conference is so relevant to us right now. Let us sit, think together, and thrive. And by the way, that DIG that was there in my curriculum is diversity, inclusion, justice, and belonging. That's my mission. Thank you.
Thanks, Silvina. Now, the floor, or better saying, the screen is over to you, Eva. Thank you.
Thank you, João. Thank you, Silvina. Thank you, Dumin. Thank you, Wendy Ann. Hello, everyone. Good day, good afternoon, good evening. Wow, it's such an honor and it's humbling to be here and to have this opportunity. So thank you very much. Yesterday, when Wendy Ann opened these fabulous 2 days, Wendy Ann said, ethics is messy. David Clutterbuck said, ethics is messy. And I've been hearing this messy since yesterday. Now you know what messy is. When we bring the Latin American context into the conversation. So we have some slides here just to help us understand a few points that we would like also to bring. And I'll start with a story. I have a background as an executive in the shipping industry. And in the 80s and 90s, there used to be this story about the CEO who was made redundant. And as he prepared his successor, he told him, listen, if you ever get stuck, this is a key to a drawer where you will find 3 envelopes. They're numbered 1, 2, 3. Open them in order and open them one by one only when you're stuck. So the new CEO took the advice, thought that was very generous, and things went well for the first couple of years, and then he got stuck. Many of you may know that story. And then he opened the first envelope, and there it was on a white sheet of paper in big letters, centralize. I said, yep, that's a good idea. And that's what he did. And then things went smoothly. And after 3 years, he was stuck again. He opened the other envelope and decentralize. That's the content of the second envelope. And then he did that. And 1 year later, stuck again, he opened the third envelope, which read, write 3 envelopes. So why are we bringing this little story here? Because this centralize, decentralize can focus our attention to a big discussion about colonizing, decolonizing coaching, which may be a polarized discussion. And we would like to reflect together with you what's the middle ground there. Indeed, the Western world has pretty much colonized the coaching industry. It's true. And it is white male supremacy. We have to admit that. And it's time we have a look at that and see what's the impact of that. But I do have some discomfort with the word decolonizing. I've always had, and I happen to be in group supervision with Professor David Klotzler. And words matter, right? So one day I took it up in our group supervision and said, David, and actually he referred to this in his opening. He said he was recently challenged by a coach in one of his groups to rethink the meaning of decolonizing, because there's power in there, isn't there? So the colonizers decide it's time to decolonize. Who has the power? And we had this conversation, and David Clutterbuck loves to be challenged, for those who know him. And at one point, he sat back and said, Eva, that's a colonizer's word. And that's how we got to this point here. And that's where we want to look at this conversation. Another point that is worth mentioning, and what is Western world? And that's what I brought up in the presentation this morning with Professor David Lane and Dumi. And 5 times during 1 hour, there were references to Western world views, Western world philosophy, etc., Western world practices. And what is usually, if you Google, what is the Western world? The area is in blue. Now, funnily enough, that's another colonizer's view of the world, isn't it? Because Oceania, I don't know how to say that in English, happens to sit in the East, whereas Latin America is definitely in the West. So again, language matters. So when we say we have to decolonize coaching from the Western world ethics, this is an invitation to find new wording. I don't know what it is, but I'm just bringing some points for our reflection. So yeah, we have been colonized, but is it that bad? So I have some notes here to guide me. Perhaps running away from polarization might help. And for that, we would like to bring in a model by Michael Carroll and Elizabeth Shaw, talking about ethical maturity. Now, this refers to the ethical maturity of a coach, of an individual coach. However, what if we used these lenses to look at a region? This is a cycle. This is not linear, of course, this model. But what we are inviting everybody here to think is perhaps creating ethical sensitivity and mindfulness is foundational for the rest to happen. How can you make ethical decisions if you don't know what ethics are, if you're not sensitive to the critical aspects of ethics, if you're not mindful? So it's a first step. And from everything that João and Silvina explained, we are in our early days. We are an immature market. And because the market still lacks sensitivity and mindfulness, creating discernment and implementing decisions and moral defense, etc., is still too early for us. Perhaps, it's not impossible, but perhaps we are young. We have a lot to teach. We are extremely diverse within Latin America. As João mentioned, we have the influence of all continents, or most continents, in our cultures. And just as the young people can teach us in our lives, our children teach us. We have reverse mentor coaching. Yeah. We can teach the youngsters. Actually, we have to teach the youngsters. So let's take a leap and reverse our thinking to questions that we coaches love so much. So to what extent has it been beneficial to have an externally imposed code of ethics? What if we didn't have one? What if we didn't have strong professional bodies working through volunteer work, like what we've done in Latin America all this time? What if? What would be happening? In Brazil, because of everything that was explained here, there was a motion in Congress to criminalize the activity of coaching. Yes, about 2 years ago, we might have become criminals. So if we take a stance from appreciative inquiry, what's working well with having an externally imposed code of ethics? What are the benefits? And I would argue that they are immense, because if we didn't have global standards, what might happen, and may still happen, we're not sure it won't happen, is that the coaching activity will be regulated by Congress people who don't know what coaching is and are influenced by lobbyists. And this heavy lobbying comes from coaching schools that do not abide to these global code of ethics. Actually, they copy paste our code of ethics from the global code of ethics or the ICF code of ethics without giving credit and without a review board, without any penalties. It's just a pro forma code of ethics. So that is dangerous. So better to have something imposed from the outside when we are not mature. For education of the market, from our presentation, you can see we are, João, Silvina, and myself, volunteers and pioneers with the coaching activity in Brazil, serving the activity for many, 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 many years. And now, when I see what happened last week, when one of the most important companies in Latin America, the most important actually, company in Latin America, sends a request for proposal where for 900 executives, they want coaching. And where you, if you want to apply, you have to be in, you need to have a PCC credential minimum from ICF or more. And you need to prove that you completed a complete coaching program, certified, not CCUs, and the equivalent of an HTTP. That's what is in the request for proposal. Now, this is big, great news. And we have been able to educate the market. We are educating the market, and it takes time. So to run away from polarization, depolarization, centralization, decentralization, I'm going to borrow from Dumi's presentation this morning, this slide. And ethically, I did a print screen, and I did ask Dumi for his permission if I could use this slide, which is so beautiful. So that's an African proverb. If the wise elders of the village don't teach the children, the village idiots will certainly do so. And so we run away, if we run away from this conversation which is polarized, if we drop the word decolonizing, we might find new words like context and curiosity as guiding principles, actually as ethical guiding principles. So thank you very much, and back to usual.
Wonderful, Eva. Thank you very much. We have 40 minutes or so to close our panel. As my last intervention, I would like to leave a question to the audience here, the one that Silvina, Eva, and I are pursuing for a possible answer. And of course, we don't know the right answer. Should we consider ethic as a compliance-based dimension, or really an integrity-based ethic concept? Analyzing by my angle, all we said here, yeah, probably we need at the early days to start being on a compliance-based ethic dimension. Learn, mature, consolidate, and then start thinking about what integrity ethical based means. So I'll give the word back to Dumi and see if we get time for questions or anything else. Thank you very much.
Wow, wow, wow. João, Silvina, Eva. Yeah, what a powerful set of issues and topics and stories shared. Thank you very much for coming through and sharing what you have. I'm seeing chat messages coming up in chat, and someone, the weight of it all. Very, very thought-provoking. Yes, absolutely agree. Can we have an indication? I see you, David. Anyone who wants to speak, just raise your hand using the reactions button at the bottom of your screen, and let me see your hands. And then in the last 9 minutes we've got, then we can hear your voices. We've had voices from Latin America now, and let's hear yours. Thank you, David. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I really enjoyed that presentation. I think the whole issue of decolonizing is a really interesting one, because if you think of Latin America, you've got millions of people speaking many hundreds of indigenous languages who have their own culture, but you've got a dominant Spanish, Portuguese, and to some extent a limited number of other European traditions. So you've got coaching traditions as well as ethical traditions from particular colonized position. And so kind of thinking through, well, how do we develop a way to, as you say, mature the profession from an existing base is a really challenging question, and one that really we have to have ongoing conversations about. So thank you for that.
Thank you, David. Very important points there. Anyone else? Francine, do you want to say something? Go for it.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, this was an extraordinary presentation, and I thank the three of you. And it occurs to me, I just finished editing a book on coaching supervision, Voices from the Americas, which includes a number of authors from Latin America. And one of the things that I would love to see more writing and publication from this region, because I think that, speaking for myself, I had no idea that this was the reality. And we would, I think many of us in what's called the Western world, whatever that is, would love to collaborate and partner with those of you who are struggling with this to really broaden the support and the partnership and the networking to help effect the kind of change that you want to change. So I really encourage more writing. Let us hear your voices in as many forums as possible.
Thank you, Francine.
Thank you, Francine. Great. Any responses from those two comments, João and the team, Eva and Silvina?
Well, it's not really an answer to Francine, but a statement that I accept the invitation, and let's partner to get our voices, not only Latin American region voices, but all together to clarify and to educate the market in general when we talk about ethics and ethics in coaching. So yeah. Thank you, Francine.
Yeah, and Nikki is saying that thank you for this poignant and thought-provoking presentation. I agree with you there, Nikki. And thanks, João, for that. Francine, your challenge is actually a global one. When coaching needs to hear all voices from all corners of the world without diminishing any of those voices, but really augmenting them and hearing them, all of them. Thank you very much for that. Eva?
Yeah, I would like, thank you, Francine. Supervision is still very, very, very new in Latin America. I know you're editing the book. So yeah, we first need to address coaching and then supervision. I would like to go back to David Lane's comment. And I know, Deniji, are you there? Could you open your camera and say something, please? We have a colleague from Brazil who has, and this is perhaps to show you what we've been doing and how we've been doing it. Is Deniji there?
Yes, she is.
Abre a câmera, por favor.
It's impossible. It's impossible because the host stopped the video.
Okay, sorry. So we have, Deniji had a badge in her first, not on this picture, but the previous picture, if you could put your previous picture, saying coaching sim, coaching yes. If someone can pull that out, or I will pull it later.
I changed my my photo.
Okay, so whilst you do that, so what is coaching sim?
Yeah, just a second. Wendy, if you can, as our host, if you can open Danita's video as host, if you can do that.
Whose video, sorry?
Not yet.
Don't worry. I need the badge.
Oh, I see.
Picture. But Silvina is raising her hand because what we want to show is an affirmative movement we created in Brazil after we were so attacked by have been so attacked by the media. So the case João told earlier, the guy's not a coach, but the media says a coach has taken these people to the mountain. So we are not going to fight back. We just reaffirm coaching. We reaffirm coaching. We don't comment, but we have a coaching yes. Você tem, bota a foto do coaching sim que você tava, por favor. Coaching yes. We have to do that.
I look for the.
Thank you.
Just a moment, please.
Thank you.
Silvina, you want to come in the meantime?
Yeah. I was going to add to what you were saying, Dumi, about the voices, the different voices. I think we as coaches have a real opportunity here to model an ethics conversation within different cultures, with the respect that we learn to show to our clients, with listening to each other with respect, and with honoring the culture and the truth that the other one is living. So we have tools for doing that. And my hope is that we can model this for other professions and for other people in the world, and probably in our markets too. And I'm really honored to have you all here. And Professor Lane, I'm honored for you to be here, because I was going to quote you before about the cultural influences. So thank you for being here. And it really is a conversation, an ongoing conversation. And its most important thing is not to be, not to get enraged by the injustice, not to be mad at anyone. It's a construction process. And as every learning process, we need consistency. So let's begin and follow up with this conversation. Let's integrate other regions of the world. Let's speak with foreign accents, and let's speak foreign languages, and let's have translators to help us understand each other. That's the thing that we need right now.
Beautiful, Silvina. Thank you very much. Yes, they are. Danita, talk us through it. Any one of you ever, Danita?
I'm sorry.
Actually,
I lost my.
Don't worry, Danita's picture. Many of us here, if you go to my LinkedIn page, João's page, Silvina's, Gilda, who is here, Gilda's the founder of this movement. You'll see that we have this badge, Coaching Scene. That's one of the ways that we are reaffirming coaching without fighting this movement, but in an affirmative and non-violent and peaceful way. So please add us to your LinkedIn and you'll see the badge.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you. Quick one, João and Eva, Silvina, one last message from you. We have 1 minute. Last message from you. I'll go this way. Silvina, João, Eva will end with you.
Thank you for everyone to being here, and let's continue the conversation. This is the most important. Thank you.
Thank you. João?
Yeah, my last word is let's keep this warm. Let's not wait for the next conference to talk about ethics. And again, my appreciation to Professor Lane.
Yeah.
It was an honor to see you here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, João. And thank you, David. Eva, last word.
Thank you. And let's continue this conversation. Another C, precious letter conversation. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Silvina. Eva, Joao, and the rest of the community of coaches in your part of the world, and everyone here today. Thank you. It is 12:30, and we have a networking session up next now. So the link is in the chat. So join the networking session. Paul, are you here? Moving across to that.